Hi, this your girl Z Clemens here with a Netflix and Chill episode 3. This one about Glow season 2, and got notes in my little hot pink binder, not binder, shoot, my notebook here, which is the same color as the logo on the on the Netflix show. And spoiler warnings for anyone who has not seen Glow season 2. So I want to get started, but I just want to warn you from the beginning that I will spoil the whole season for everyone with my trusty little notebook here. So this season starts off right after the end of season 1, where Sam actually makes the promo for Glow to sell to Patio Town, which is owned by KDTV, under the network KDTV. And let me tell you something, it was a really good season. I enjoyed it. This one was more, it wasn't just, there was more wrestling, more work on the promos. You see more of a behind the scenes type of thing, just like in if you ever watch a WWE commentary or TNA commentary or Ring of Honor commentary, they actually say there's a lot of work that's put in there. So all the episodes of these promos you see on TV and the actual matches are actually choreographed weeks in advance. So they tape on and on and on. So this is a good background on it. I mean, it's not the 100% finest because, mind you, this takes place during the 80s, which is around the same time WWF had just, I guess, taken off the ground. See, if my husband here, he'd probably give me better perspective on it because he is a big wrestling fan. He knows all about wrestling. He just doesn't have, he could tell me everything I really wanted to know. But anyway, got my little notebook here so we can just go through the little notes here, starting off with episode 1, which is basically Sam finally getting his feet off the ground as a producer. As last season he was trying to get all his stuff together, and now he's finally got his feet off the ground. And the very first thing which made me laugh is it's 9 o'clock in the morning, he's already snorting coke and drinking vodka, which is, I guess, a stereotypical staple of the 80s. People were smoking a lot of coke back then, but Sam is the most habitual drinker I have ever seen in an entire TV series. But other than that, a lot of stuff happens. You know, the girls are so excited. They start taking photos of themselves. They got Sheila, the wolf woman, to actually do all the pictures and everything. She's the one who goes up on the roof and takes a picture of all the girls. You know, it was only supposed to be 2 girls, and it was 4 girls, and it was all of them. And, you know, Tamay had to put herself in it. Kia Stevens, who, if you don't know, was Awesome Kong in TNA, and then she was, I forgot what she was called in WWE, but she didn't last that long in WWE, which is a shame because she's a really good wrestler. She shined a lot this season. Not only as a wrestler because, well, she is a wrestler, so I hope she did do the wrestling or the choreograph of the wrestling on the show, but she also shined as an actress because we never see her really act. Even when she's doing TNA, when she was Awesome Kong, all she did was growl and stomp around like a big woman, and we didn't see any side of her character. We barely saw her in WWE except making promos and laughing at the other girls. And this season, it was nice to see her. We see a whole, I'll get into it in a minute, but whole season about her son and how she's proud of her and all the sacrifice she makes as a mother. And she even comes off almost like a grandmotherly like figure to Debbie, who's becoming a single mom now, because this whole season was mainly, the focus was on, I feel like, was on Debbie's divorce and her becoming her own person while being completely evil to Ruth, which Ruth, by the way, does not get a pass because she did sleep with her husband. But anyway, she clearly, Kia Stevens really did a good job. And clap for her. And clap for her. Everybody can clap for her. She did a great job. Anyway, I got my little notes here. We get a new, you know, after this season, Cherry leaves to star in her own show, which she's doing terribly at, apparently. And we get a new character named Yolanda, who was a stripper. Which was a stripper at a bar a stripper at a strip club that Sam frequents, and is hired there as a new junk chain to replace Cherry's character, who she knows nothing about wrestling. I don't think she has any real wrestling talent, but she's a dancer, so it kind of goes hand in hand. Because if you ever watch the 80s or in the 90s somewhat, if you watch any old Glow episodes, not the new stuff, because there is a new Glow, if you ever watch the old stuff, there was a lot of the girls there were athletes, which is what wrestlers are. They're athletes. but she was more not Tammy, Yolanda was more of a gymnast type of athlete, and she was a dancer. So I mean, for that, she could be considered passable once she learned the moves, which apparently the main trainer at that point, because Cherry left the show, was Carmen, whose brother is Carlito, and I forgot the other wrestler, but I know one of them is WWE wrestler Carlito. It's gonna hit me later. I know. I think it's not It's not Tyrus. I know it's not Tyrus. I watched Tyrus before. No, it's not Tyrus. But anyway, back to the story. So we finally, basically, Yolanda is introducing the show. Ruth, after they finally get the green light to start doing Glow episodes, Ruth takes the initiative to actually take the girls to the mall. We're also introducing another character named Russell, who is the cameraman who happens to be Ruth's love interest this season. And they're whisked away to the mall to do Glow promos, which is them goofing off in the mall, basically. Debbie goes to do a shopping spree, and that's when Ruth gets the idea to make the promo there. And they finally tape it, they put it together, and they present it to Sam, who pretty much, the whole reason why Ruth was even doing the promo for Glow was because Sam basically wanted to give her something to do, because Sam was, I think, intimidated by Ruth's ideas, because they were good ideas that Ruth was coming up with. Because if it wasn't for Ruth and Debbie, the whole show would have been destroyed in the first place before he even got it off the ground. And Ruth finally used her initiative and her experience. Even though she's not an actress, she has never been on a major show. Ruth has the ideas and capacity to help make a show great, and she went and made a promo with Russell, and basically Sam gets completely pissed and says that I'm the director here, you can't do anything. No, you're Another thing that also happens this season is we get a little more of Sam and Justine, the girl from the last season, relationship between her and Sam, because Sam finds out that's his daughter, and he takes initiative to try to be a good dad by putting her back in school. And she helps out with the backgrounds of the show, and she also does a lot of promos for the show. And basically, the whole season is awkward for them because he doesn't know how to be a dad. Sam knows he's not a good person, and that's the whole point. He tries to he wants this father-daughter relationship to work, but the whole thing is Sam knows in the back of his head he could probably screw it up at any moment, so it's almost like awkwardness, because it's not like he raised Justine from a baby. She's the product of a one-night stand. He knows this stuff. And we meet Justine's mom down the road, and Sam wants this to work. That's the whole point of this season. He wants his relationship with Justine to work, but she has her own teenage problems. She's got a boyfriend who, he's a rocker. He wants to make his own music, and he wants to become this big time rocker. But I was sitting there the whole season going, don't do this, don't ruin your life, because this guy was a loser. To be honest, I did not like Justine's boyfriend, but it was typical teenage stuff. You think he's total bad dude who shows up and is supposed to whisk you off your feet of all your problems, and of course, as an adult, once you get older, you realize this guy was just a complete loser, and he was just supposed to be a distraction for your problems. So we spent a whole season, dealing with Justine and Sam's problems. We got the Ruth and Debbie problems, and then we got a little tiny one with Teme, but it resolves itself, thankfully, because we have way a lot of problems. And another thing that happened in episode 1 was the girls get their contracts, and Debbie, who is smart enough to know better, instead of just signing her life away, decides to negotiate her contract. Because she was an actress, she's worth more money. She was bid on a show until, she decided to give her own ideas and was basically passed on. And then by the beginning of the season, she's made a producer by the KDTV or KKTV, I think that's what it's called, KDTV network. So she's a producer with Sam and Bash. And Bash also has, I forgot about Bash. Bash's arc in the season is also pretty good too, because the whole season, last season, we were introduced to a character named Sebastian, who was Bash's butler, and he was a prominent role. And then by this season, he disappears, and I'll reveal what happens to him later. But he basically didn't get paid, and he disappeared. And that's the last we see him of the season. So all these episodes, let's see. Episode 2, I mentioned I was recapping episode 1 that Ruth pretty much gets sidelined for making the promo behind Sam's back. He pretty much does not get her an episode, a match to do because of the whole making a promo behind his back. He wanted her to know her role and just chill out for a while. And of course, Debbie, who, like I said, this whole season, Debbie was pretty evil the whole season. Even though, yes, again, Ruth does not get a pass for what she did, but come on, Debbie. You gotta learn to be a bigger woman. Put your panties on. Big girl panties on. Stop trying to take it out. He sidelines her, but... And then he also, Sam gets jealous because Debbie's now a producer. So now they can't do anything without Debbie say so, because Debbie could pretty much call them out. I mean, they pretty much sidelined her for the whole some of the season, in the beginning, until Tammy gives her a good talk. I'll get to that in a minute. But Ruth gets sidelined. That's the whole thing, until finally they make up later in a couple episodes. And by episode 3, Glow gets blowback from the Conventional Women of America, because the series is too sexual and not wholesome enough, which I'm going, mind you, I was watching this, I went, this is on episode 3, by the way. I went, what are you talking about? Because wrestling is going to be somewhat sexual. Wrestling has always been a vulgar sport. WWF has never steered away from pissing off a whole bunch of people. And if you go on YouTube right now and watch the Attitude Era, they pissed off a lot of people. So they've never shied away. So I was thinking, like, what are you talking about? And I remember in the 80s, that was the era when, if I wasn't an 80s baby, I was more of a 90s baby, even though I was born in the 80s. But if you remember back then, even with the Megatron, like the Transformers era, they had a whole segment where a toy Megatron could be turned into a Magnum. So I had to write it down because I cannot remember their names. Conventional Women of America pretty much protest the show, and if you ever noticed this about media, especially back then, because they're the ones who buy everything, if moms and women get angry, and I'm not trying to make a feminist rant here, but I'm just going to be 100% honest. If moms get angry, you're not going to have a show or a product. All it takes is one person to get angry, and you're done. You're done. So the show was deemed too sexual, too violent, and of course, a lot of women want their kids to learn, so it wasn't educational enough. And and then there was the message where there was also the whole thing that Patio Town's equipment was destroyed, which was their vendor, their sponsor. They broke one of the Patio Town's equipment during a fight. I might be going ahead, but I cannot remember for the life of me. But then there was the Teen Mom. There was a Teen Mom incident where, Debbie said as Liberty Bell, she was a teen mom and she was taking care of kids, and it was hard and all this stuff. And of course there was blowback because the owner of Patio Town's mom actually was a teen mom, and of course they didn't know anything about that. But of course the mother was offended, and now they pretty much are backing out their sponsorship because they can't afford to lose any more sponsorship for what they're doing. So of course now, the crap hits the fan. And on the flip side, we get back to a character that left the show, which is Cherry, who's having a hard time with her new role as an actress, because Cherry's a stunt woman. She's not an actress. So she can't remember lines. She has a hard time, emoting or doing anything correctly. And of course, this makes her job much harder, and now she's miserable. So we also have that little subplot that wraps stuff up by a couple episodes. And then in episode 4, we're introduced to Tammy's arc, which is her son is a college student who is going to Stanford University, which is a prominent university of that area. So he finds out that she's on Glow, and he doesn't like the name Welfare Queen. But like she said, the whole show is offensive. It's not meant to cater anybody's audience. Of course, he's a little bit like... But, I think eventually she does win him over by, he goes to a match after, finding out about the show. And at first it looks embarrassing because at this point, Debbie, I will get to a whole segment about Debbie in a minute, but all heck breaks loose. There's a Tammy versus Welfare Queen fight for the title. And basically Tammy gets humiliated by Debbie, telling her Welfare Queen to go get a job, and he puts an apron on her and everything, and she's just feeling the power, and she runs off because she's looking at her son, who she feels like he's embarrassed by her. And even before all this, there's a whole segment about good 5 minutes of beginning of that episode is her talking to another woman who is working at a fast food place, and she mentions how much both of the moms, single moms, have to stick together, and they have to do everything they can for their son. So even though Tammy knows being called welfare queen is not something, and I like this about Tammy, but she knows being called welfare queen is not a positive. It's not a good idea at all, but she uses it to take care of her son. And it's something you can respect. It's almost like if your mom's a stripper and she did and it wasn't like, or any type of profession where it's kind of frowned upon, especially if you're a parent. Tammy's a good mom. She's doing anything she can to take care of the bills and take care of her kids. So it's not like she wants to do this. It's what she has to do. And that's one thing I will respect about her character. Almost like, it's like I said before, if you're a stripper and you have no other way to pay the bills, but that stripper money is making that money for you to be a good parent and take care of your bills and feed your children every day until you find something better, then you can't get mad at that. It's not a respectable job, supposedly, but you can't get mad at that. You're doing what you need to do because you're taking care of responsibilities. Got that ran out the way. But I kept notes. Still reading my notes here. A whole bunch of stuff happens in episode 4. Besides the fact that Tammy, gets embarrassed, but her son's like, he knows she's welfare queen. He because he's an adult by this point. And he kind of understands, but at the same time, one thing he is impressed by is her wrestling skill because, well, Kia Stevens is a wrestler, so awesome. But of course, she had to hold back because have you ever seen Kia Stevens in the ring? I've seen a couple episodes of her when I was looking over my husband because we were sitting there watching wrestling. She can knock somebody the F out and it won't be pretty. So even if you ever see her fighting, she has these gloves on, these cushions on her hands. So when she's punching somebody, she's not completely breaking bones. Like, that's how hard of a trainer she is. She's trained her body for this. So she had to hold back also as Awesome Kong, and she probably had to hold back more as welfare queen, aka Tammy. Then we also get the B subplot where Debbie's at home. She's getting ready for a match with Tammy because they had to work together to get this promo together, because part of going on is Tammy and I'm probably going all over the place. I just want to double check here. So Debbie's trying to impress both Sam and Bash by having them dinner. Tammy overhears because Tammy's a single mom, like I said before, and she already knows that they weren't going to show up. She shows up, eats food with them, and tells them, she said, in order for you to get ahead in life, and I remember this because it came ring true because I do work for a politicalist job. In order for you to get ahead, you have to give the men what they won't do. It's almost like you do the work for them and make yourself useful so they'll respect you more. And that's what they do. They do the promo and stuff themselves, and they do other stuff themselves. So Bash and Sam take her more seriously. I only took a couple notes for certain episodes because it was so much going on. Some stuff is left out, some stuff is put in, but not all of it needs to be put in there because at the end of the day, I do want you guys to watch all this yourselves. But there was a whole episode during this episode where Mark, secretary, calls Debbie to find out the size of the beds in the furniture, or type of bed and furniture that they used when they were living together as husband and wife. And of course, this pisses Debbie off because she tells the secretary, how dare you call me? We just broke up. And she just gets a spur of the minute idea and goes and sells all the furniture in the house. Like everything must go, basically. She's highballing, she's lowballing. And one woman said, you're kind of going lowballing with all this stuff. I mean, are you really trying to sell stuff? And then she's like, you know what, screw it. Everybody just take everything and go. Everything's $5. Whatever you can grab is $5. Just get out of my house. And it turns out, because Debbie's so petty this season. It turns out the reason why Mark, who was Debbie's ex-husband, was saying all this stuff was because he wanted to make the environment for their son, who's part of all this, to feel familiar. Mind you, he's a baby, which I went, he's a baby? He's not going to remember any of this. Trust me. It's almost like when you give a big party for baby's first birthday. It's really for the parents because the baby's not going to remember the darn thing. You're going to take a million pictures he's taking a million pictures, or in my case, just take a video from a picture and save it into my cloud drive or whatever. So the baby will have its own memories, but I digress. The whole time he did this was to make it easier on the baby. And on top of all of that, there was a match between the whole, I already explained the match between Welfare Queen and Liberty Bell. And then, as Liberty Bell is humiliating Welfare Queen, the audience starts booing her because Debbie took it too far. And Zoya, who was played by Ruth, decides to take this little girl who happens to be in the audience, and she says, "I'm part of the show." And she's like, "Liberty Bell, I have sickle. I will take your child. Do not follow." And then the whole plot line is basically her Liberty Bell trying to get her daughter back from Zoya, Zoya the Destroyer. So Debbie was pretty, I want to say evil this episode. I'll probably click down to the segments, but I did not like it. This episode was just, I had a ball with it because I'm like, this was a little too extreme. Debbie was taking everything too far. Like the whole season, she's taking her whole divorce to heart. And then we get to episode 5, which is Glow's fan base starts to grow because everybody starts like everybody's character except for Zoya the Destroyer, which is Ruth, who the whole episode she's kind of hurt because she thought, people should like her. Even though she's the villain, she thought she'd be more liked, and of course she's not. So one of the biggest was Sheila. I like Sheila. Sheila's funny. Even though she's weird and she wears a wolf outfit the whole time we see her, we never see her except for one episode without her outfit on. I do love the fact that Sheila is very honest with you. She don't give a crap. She will do what she wants to do. She's almost like Pam Poovey from Archer. I can't hate her. She's unapologetically cool. But anyway, their fan base grows. They get all these letters from their fans, especially Sheila. She has trunks full of a trunk full of letters, and she's a little embarrassed because she said, "This is who I am. I don't like the fact that someone's cosplaying as me. I want this to be authentic." And Ruth points out that you're walking around in a first fuzzy suit in California. Okay, being weird is kind of part of the whole California setting anyway. You're not authentic. And then Ruth gets a phone call from one of the executives of the show that they're using, and we get one of the most awkward scenes, which is where she meets one of the executives and basically set up in one of those bungalow houses where they're supposed to have food and all this stuff. And it turns out Ruth almost gets sexually assaulted, and she runs away. And it's really slightly uncomfortable because at first thinking, oh, well, she's probably starting off for a new show or blah, 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 blah. And then this guy just, starts put him in a headlock, and he's on her boob. And it was like, what the heck's going on? Is she going to sleep with him? And of course, while he's going to get the jacuzzi started, she runs, which is probably the smartest thing to do. But what makes this a sad episode is not only does she almost get sexually assaulted, but then her friend, who still mad at her over the divorce, Debbie, gets mad because basically Glow's time slot is taken because she didn't sleep with the producer to 2 a.m. to get replaced by, which I'm guessing would be WWF, WCW came in like the 90s, so WWF. Of course, everybody's understandably pissed. Now Bash and Sam don't know why, but Ruth tells Debbie because she tried to sleep with him. Because he tried to sleep with her, she ran off, and she goes, Are you a little kid or something? You're supposed to act like you want him, but then act like you're on your period or something." And I'm sitting there like, no, Debbie, this is not cool. This is sexual assault. And no, I'm not going to say anything about the Me Too movement before anybody says anything. This is sort of like a Me Too moment, but they're talking about back in the 80s. This is what women were expected to do to get ahead. So basically, Debbie kind of gets really, really pissy with her, which I'm like, I don't care if you're mad at your former best friend for sleeping with your husband. Sexual assault's not cool. It's almost like you want something really, really bad to happen to her to punish her for what happened. And to be honest, I'm gonna just stop ranting about Debbie because I swear to goodness I will never get to the end of this segment to talk about the Debbie segment. But basically, Debbie is gonna punish Ruth. Debbie pretty much is so pissed at Ruth for this because he said, this is part of the acting game. If you want to be an actress, you act like you want them, and then you act like you're on your period or something, so he doesn't want you, which is really stupid. You shouldn't have to do that. I don't care if you're alone with somebody. I could have sworn no means no. No matter what era we're in, no means no. I don't want you, and that's supposed to be the end of it. So I want to tell Debbie at that time point, get off your high horse. Okay, get off your horse, because at this point, this is not about you slept with my husband. This is someone tried to sexually assault an employee who, by the way, you're a producer, so an employee under you almost got sexually assaulted. So what kind of person are you? So then next, I went to episode 6 by saying the time slot thing, but there's a whole thing about Sam's movies are put into production or put into a movie theater, and basically he gets a film festival. He introduces it, and this is where, you know, Ruth joins him because she was somewhat interested. Justine wasn't there because she decided to skip out on it, but excuse me. Basically, Ruth tells Sam about the incident where she almost gets sexually assaulted, and Sam hilariously drives up to the executive's car. I think his name was Tom or something, and just takes a golf club or tire, I think it was a tire arm, and smashes the executive's windshield in. And the other executive standing there, he just freezes. He's like, and Sam's looking like, "Come on, dude, let's do this. You want to put me in jail? Come on, let's do this." And he's like, the guy's holding a cup like his coffee. I wish I had a coffee mug, but you know what? It could have been anybody. He just like basically lets Sam drive off and lets the guy get his windshield smashed in, because I guess the way he's thinking is the executive's probably pissed off a lot of people. So at this point, it's like, could have been anybody. You know, I'm not gonna say anything. But either that, he was scared of Sam. I'm not sure. But basically, we get a whole scene where Debbie's starting to feel the pressure of being a producer. You know, there's a whole thing about Zoya to destroy it, because while this is all going on, the whole backstory of Zoya kidnapping Liberty Bell's daughter is supposed to be continued, and they're supposed to be filming and everything, and Ruth's starting to feel the pressure. Her divorce is starting to become finalized. She has nobody in her corner. I mean, it's so much stuff going on that she snorts coke, gets dressed up because she takes some of Sam's coke, gets dressed up, and goes to fight Zoya. And then we get the next episode where they finally, no, not the next episode. Should have been paying attention more to my notes, but basically she snorts coke, and she got her in a hold with her ankle and snaps her ankle. And then 7. Oh, before I get into all this, I just want to point out, because I skipped over, I forgot to tell you, Cherry comes back, and she's supposed to be Junk Chain. Remember, Cherry was Junk Chain, Yolanda took Junk Chain, and I just want to get into the little Cherry segment real quick. But basically, Cherry did not do good in the show, and they pretty much permed her natural hair and tried to give her less lines. Basically, it was almost like an insult. So Sam goes over at the behest of Cherry's husband to get her out of her contract, or make it so like Cherry was killed off so she can go back to being on Glow. And there's a whole match between, and by the way, Yolanda hits on everybody this whole season because she's a lesbian, which is cool. You know, usually I'd be like, oh no, they do the lesbian character because it's like, oh, I'm a lesbian, I'm gonna hit on you. Oh, I'm a lesbian, I'm hitting on you. Oh, I'm a lesbian, I'm gonna hit on you. No. It was more like she was hitting on everybody, but it was done comedically. Like in a way where it's like, this is retarded. Like Yolanda's lightheartedly, there's a difference between flirting and lighthearted flirting. Yolanda was mostly lighthearted flirting, especially at Cherry. But Yolanda and Cherry fight for the title of Junk Chain, because it's supposed to be that Junk Chain actually disappeared, and she came back in the real Junk Chain, and she's the real Junk Chain, and she lets Yolanda pretty much have Junk Chain, and she turns out to be a different character, which is hilariously like another character that she created for her and her husband in the bedroom. But that whole segment happens, and then finally getting back to episode 7, we jump over to when Zoya's ankle is snapped forcibly by Liberty Bell, and Ruth is taken to the hospital with all her friends, and Debbie's in shock the whole time because she's like, oh crap, what the heck did I just do? She's in the shower. She's trying to cool off from all the coke she just snorted to get through all this. And we get a cute little segment where we realize that not only are the characters of Glow are co-workers, they're friends. Like, they were all legitimately concerned. Bash had to get everybody out the theater, because the gym, because all the characters had rushed to get Ruth to the hospital. And then we also get this cute, not only do we get segments of them being friends and cheering up Ruth, because mind you, she's in excruciating pain, because her whole, as we see in the x-ray, this is my finger, but I've hurt my foot before. I've sprained it, so I know pain. Snapping the whole bone is probably much, much worse. So imagine this is the bone right here, and there's like a hole, or this is the line. This is the line. It went crackly through it. And to make a long story short, we get a whole segment about how Howard Bash Productions doesn't have health insurance. Nobody really has health insurance except for one character who's still being paid for by her parents, and the stunt couple, which is Cherry and her husband, who said we're stunting people without a death wish. So that was actually really funny. So that whole segment happens, and then Debbie comes to finally visit Ruth after talking to Sheila, about getting her not Sheila, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Everybody who comes, when Debbie finally comes to the hospital, mind you, after she's kind of come down from the coke, everybody thinks that Debbie injured Ruth on purpose, because they all know that Ruth is going through her divorce. And the fact of the matter is, it did seem almost like mean and intentional, because all these episodes up to this point, Debbie has been like hounding and hurting Ruth, and it's almost like excessively, so everybody thinks she intentionally did it. And we finally get the pinnacle of this season, which is them finally talking about their feelings. And the whole feeling thing is, I'm sorry, I got allergies. They finally talk about their feelings, which is the whole, Debbie's whole thing is, you slept with my husband, so I'm going to make you feel like crap. And Ruth is like, you know what, go ahead. I've been trying to be nice to you this whole time we've been working together, because I know what I did was wrong. And I'll get into the Debbie portion of this video, but they finally make up after Sheila makes Debbie go give the clothes back, and they leave the hospital. So yeah, I'll get into that. The episode 7, the whole Debbie, or the whole season I should say, the whole Debbie and Ruth thing. And then episode 8 was promos. It was all them doing promos. We got introduced to Black Magic, which is Cherry's new character, who's controlling Britannica. And then we got all these dance numbers. It was basically a promo clip show, but it was done humorously. Everything was done humorously. Even the whole thing with Zoya has a twin sister who helps Liberty Bell get her daughter back, and all this other stuff. It was great. It was a great clip show. So then episode 9 is when the crap hits the fan. They realize everybody, Sam gives everybody, not Sam, but one of the characters says, I think it was Fortune Cookie, I can't remember everybody's name, but it's time for everybody to find a new job, basically, because they know that the show's getting canceled eventually. So everybody's looking for a new job. Everybody's kind of really sad because they like what they were doing. And then we get a whole scene about Britannica, and I'm sorry, I'm hitting head. Everybody's trying to find a new job. Then we got Bash and Debbie trying to go to a convention to try to pick up network executives so they can get g.l.o.w, which I'll tell you the surprise later about that whole thing. And then we also get Justine finally comes back, and not come back, but we finally get an episode about Sam and Justine and, surprisingly enough, Ruth, where Justine's mom finally shows up because she saw her on a promo of g.l.o.w. And basically she's pounding on Sam's door, and she said basically, Justine, pack up your stuff, we're going home. And then we get this comedic, almost awkward moment where Sam makes Ruth stay because Sam knows he's bad at this. He's bad at trying to make amends with women because, well, he has a lot of bad relationships, where Justine's mother doesn't really want Sam around because, one, he was on a one-night stand and he didn't even bother to stay around for when Justine was born, and two, she doesn't see Sam as a good person, and he's not a good person. But I was like, give the guy a chance. I mean, first of all, he just found out this girl came out into his life, and yes, Justine was wrong for running away, but pulling her away from her father is going to make her come back more. So that whole thing culminates in basically Justine gets mad because she wants to stay with her father, and of course Justine's mom's like, no way. And eventually she does decide to go back with her mother after Billy, her supposed boyfriend, decides that he wants to move far away to New York, and he was going to run away with her. And then Sam's like, stop following me around, stop following Billy around, find out what you want to do as a woman. And it was like, that was great parenting. He told her, you know, I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you want to run away, Billy, fine, but make it your own decision, not because someone else told you to do it. So she makes the decision to go back home with her mother. But and she asked Sam if he's gonna come visit. He's like, probably not. And I was almost like, what the heck, dude? But then I realized Sam's being honest with this. He doesn't know how to deal with Justine's mom. He doesn't know how to deal with, you know, the stepdad. And that's the whole reason for Justine running off, is because she did not feel like she belonged. Because for the longest time it was her and her mom, and then she gets a new boyfriend. And it was like, and I get this her whole arc was basically her mom made her emotional girlfriend almost. You know, everything was on Justine, and now that Justine's mom finally gets a boyfriend, she feels kind of left out because now she's not part of everything. So, you know, there's that. So, oh, and they finally do get some people, Bash and Debbie. Going back to Bash and Debbie finally gets some people to watch the promos, and then Bash finds out that Sebastian died of AIDS. Yeah, back in the 80s, well, I already had a feeling Sebastian was gay. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but Sebastian died from AIDS, and of course, Bash, not Bash, was it Bash? I can't remember names right now. My brain is just going completely. Bash's butler dies from AIDS, who he's really close to, and of course he has the evilest. I think going to episode 10, he has the almost unhealthy reaction. He makes her throw all of his butler stuff out, even though they were like this. He makes the cleaning guys throw it out, bleach everything, because back then nobody knew what AIDS was. So everybody called it the sickness. They thought it was contagious just touching his things. He thought that he would catch it just by catching his things. Of course, we know now, you know, with AIDS and HIV, that's not how you get it. But back then, you know, they called it the sickness. We didn't know everything about it. That's why people were dying left and right, because no one knew how to combat it. And he bleaches the whole house. He gets rid of everything. He's in so much grief, it's ridiculous. And we finally get to episode 10, which is one of the subplots is that Britannica has to get married because she's not a legal citizen. And she agrees to marry one of her fans in the big blowout show of the Globe Crown, the wedding episode. And all the stuff gets wrapped up neatly by episode 10. And I'm skipping over, probably. I did write some stuff in my notes, as you can see here, but I didn't want to write everything because I do want to encourage all of you to watch the season because this was a good one. But by episode 10 was back in with her mom. Britannica has to get married for U.S. citizenship. Bash, like I said, has a negative reaction to his best friend dying and having AIDS. And it's crazy because this whole episode was a wedding episode for g.l.o.w, the wrestlers. You know, Britannica's getting married to one of her number one fans, which they call him Cupcake. And this guy is a huge weirdo. He comes to the hotel all the time to give Britannica cupcakes, and I think he legitimately loved her, but it was kind of creepy. So all the girls show up, and it's all the intros are comedic. And Sheila gives a great note when she just howls, and all her fans who are cosplaying as her howl with her. And she jumps on the stage. And mind you, all the executives are also standing there watching the taping of the show. And in a bold move, Bash goes to Britannica's side and tells him, "I will marry you. Do not marry this guy." And before all this, Cherry's husband is going, "You sure you want to do this?" And he's on a horse. And there's a whole funny scene where Sam goes, "I hope this," because in the background Ruth is help directing the show because she can't walk. You know, she's on crutches for 8 weeks, so she can't do anything. Why's my brain going blank? Because she can't do anything, she's helped producing the show. And he goes, "I hope this horse does not crap in the floor." And Ruth goes, it's going to crap. He goes, "No." That was really funny. So Bash interrupts the wedding, kicks the guy out, and Britannica agrees to marry Bash. And of course, the fan goes, "Well, wrestling isn't real. This is all choreographed. You guys are all fake." And of course, you know, everybody kicks him off the stage. And then once they finally get married, Britannica gets up on the top of I cannot remember the name of the corners of the ring, but gets up on one of the corners of the ring, throws the bouquet, and then Bash gets down and says, "Oh, by the way, this is basically, it's like almost like a royal." If you ever seen the battle royales they have on WWE to get the title or the crown, That was basically a beginning of the battle royale for the title and the crown. And there's this big battle royale, all beating everybody up. Then we get a cameo, because this is a B plot, that one of the characters, which is Jung Chain, steals Carmen's brother's move, the lumberjack chop, and they get a cameo appearance to make amends with Carmen, because Carmen basically, it's a wrestling thing. You can't steal each other's moves. It's pretty much a mean thing to do. I want to say, I can't say the other word, but it's pretty much a mean thing to do. So they fight men. They all fight each other, and there's 3 left. There's Liberty Bell, Carmen, who's Machu Picchu, and Sheila, and they fight these guys, which one of them is Carlito. I forgot the other one. Crap. I know his name. I'm probably going to get a hit in the comments section below about what his name was, but I don't watch as much wrestling as my husband does, so I forget names all the time. I'm not good with names anyway, but they fight him, knock him out the ring, and then there's a 3-way battle royale. And then in almost like I forgive you type of fashion for Debbie and for Sam, because Ruth was a trooper this whole season. No matter what, he was a trooper. And Ruth comes down on a zip line, knocks all 3 of them out, and Zoya gets the title. She's like, "Oh, you're not doing Zoya." Oh, I was like, go Ruth. Ruth was a trooper this whole season, because it's almost like she was a victim punch bag. And they end the season, they wrap up the table, and they find out that because the contracts they signed, KDTV owns the rights to all of g.l.o.w. And it's really sad, because they really thought they were going to get executives and keep the show going, and turns out they didn't. So basically they're stuck at the 2 a.m. time slot until the show dies out. And everybody's sad. People feel like, well, what we're going to do? I don't want to go back to doing what I was doing. And then turns out that one of the people in the audience, which was a friend, this is really ironic. So Yolanda, remember I said earlier, Yolanda's a stripper. Well, was a stripper. Her old boss comes to visit g.l.o.w. Because they met through Justine's dance, because there's a whole segment about Justine went to the dance, and they meet Yolanda's ex-boss, which Sam was at the strip club one day, writing up notes for the show. And he said, I'm a owner of one of the clubs in Vegas. How about you guys do shows for us night after night for a long time in Vegas? Like he was saying, Vegas is where the money is. So technically they could still do their work for KDTV, which is them just pretty much sitting in the tapes, but still make live shows at 1,100 people making $25K per night. So the whole segment wraps up where it's great, because the show still is. And if you don't know the real g.l.o.w was taped live in Vegas. So Las Vegas, not Las Vegas. And it was kind of great, because they go to Vegas, they can tape the live shows there, so they still get the 2 a.m. time slot, but then they'll have live shows in Vegas. So that means that's how some people actually got started, was in Vegas. So if they go to Vegas, they get the live shows, and then people will watch their tapings, and maybe KDTV will pull up their time slot and let them work at a different time slot, and the show can still be progressive. So, or let's say on the flip side that KDTV chooses not to keep g.l.o.w, they can still show over at Vegas. So either way, it works out for them. So the whole season wraps up. Mark and Debbie finally comes to terms with her divorce, where she has to give up her son, to stay with Mark. And like he said, this is the perks of divorce. You can go do what you need to do and then come back. Your son will always be waiting for you. If you don't like it, you can come back home. So he's still being supported, even though he was a jerk, for the whole thing. But he at least is supportive enough for her to go where she wanted to go and do what she wanted to do. So whole season wraps up. Ruth finally gets her love interest. Debbie has to get in terms of her marriage is over, and she has to move on with her life. But she's also a producer at g.l.o.w, so she's going to go where she needs to be. And that's how they neatly wrap everything up. Sam has to deal with the fact that he might not always see his daughter, but he has a shining hope that maybe she'll come see him. They get a show in Vegas. They're starting new lives together. Bash and Britannica are married. He might not really love Britannica. Britannica already told him, you can get out of this if you really want to. He said, no, I want to do this. So I don't know if he loves Britannica. He might, but we'll see. So this was a very long video. I'm gonna condense it, but this all I had to say for this season of Glow. It was a good season. It was a lot more realistic than I thought it was. First, I thought it was going to be all wrestling, and we're going to get to later on where the show finally picks up. But you see the real. I mean, this whole season, one of the themes was the fact that this was a women's show, and people were expecting women to act like girly girls. But it turns out it was a vulgar, offensive show. But you see the potential in these women, and I actually did enjoy watching. I enjoyed all the humor. I enjoyed the fact that this is real. You know, not everybody's going to be the greatest person, and we see these women progress and probably open up doors, because when we think about it, there weren't that many women in wrestling. No, wait, yeah, Mae Young and crud, I cannot remember the other person's name. See, like I said, I'm bad with names. But oh no, this was a good season. So I'll see you guys in the next episode, and stay tuned for my Debbie's Ruth sideline analysis, and click the like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again in the next video.